don't know if this happens to you, but everything I know starts to get simpler. It just starts to get simpler. So I'm going to keep it very, very simple. We'll have some fun. Stop me anytime around the whole idea of coaching. But these are the three things I know about coaching. The first thing I know is that I have to start from a deep level of inquiry, of asking questions, being present to the other person. Secondly, I have to operate from the stage of deep self-awareness and awareness of everything I've been taught. And at the moment, I've gone through 17 assessment centers, which is way too much information about yourself. So inquiry first, filter second, and then third, the idea of small bites. The idea of just providing a little bit of information to exactly where the person is, and not telling them the fabulous things that I could tell them and the 17 models that are popping around my head. So just to provide a little bit of detail in each of these, within inquiry and advocacy, and this is at best advanced common sense, things you already know. Mike and I were talking about one of these models, so this will look familiar to at least Mike. But as I work more deeply around inquiry, and some of this comes from the teaching and coaching I'm currently doing at Northwestern in the master's program of learning and organizational change, the first step of listening truly is a stage that I like to call ignore. Have you ever been or seen somebody that is defiant when they're in a listening setting? Not only do they not want to listen, but there's almost an energy that they're going to defy you or push back. You can feel it. So I think one of the things that's important about establishing these steps is also for us to be able to diagnose where we are as we walk into a coaching setting. So ignoring is the first stage. Pretending is the second stage. That's a classic for anybody who has a significant other. I mean, who hasn't said, yes, dear, sure, yeah, right, exactly. That is what we know as the pretend stage of listening. The third stage, also familiar to many of you, is selective listening. Now, selective listening I think about as being information that comes in as if it's fulfilling a template in your head. Information that comes in to fulfill your objectives. The focus is on perhaps selling something. It's a classic style effectively within selling. Perhaps to get out of the situation quickly. Perhaps for personal ego needs, so that you can be the smartest kid in the block. Not that that would ever happen to you. But one of the great things about coaching is that we get to assess exactly where we are. Selective listening does involve questioning, of course, but it also involves having a predisposition of where you want things to wind up. That begins to shift with the next stage of listening, which is the classic active listening. And this is where a lot of the higher level tools come in, the open-ended questions, because we don't know where it's going to go. The reflection of what somebody says exactly, especially if the information is over our heads. So we repeat it as a way to connect with the individual and also establish vulnerability and disclosure. I learned this when I was running a startup consulting practice at DDI, and I was in a room at Boeing of all rocket scientists. And about every other word was something I didn't understand. And as I began to reflect back to them, so you're saying you need somebody that will be able to figure out the trajectory of the Delta IV missile cycle, they could say, yes, he's beginning to understand. So even though I didn't, it was a way to begin to get some connection. Another key tool in the area of active listening, which I actually absolutely love, is the emotion check. And the emotion check comes from some of the work at Interaction Associates, is about if somebody is very upset or has a high level of emotion, whatever that emotion is, that you have the courage as a coach to say, it sounds like, Mike, that this is really getting under your skin. I have a hypothesis. This is getting under your skin in a way I don't understand. That's it. I have a hypothesis. Can I check something with you? And because you are owning the hypothesis, you are owning the checking, you're not saying, boy, do you look pissed off. Which, again, from personal relationships, is not always the best strategy. So the emotion check starts to get more deeply into active listening. And again, probably a lot of you have a lot of experience